Hey everybody, it's me Chris. I'm back over here in the kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make steak pizzaiola. And basically what it means in Italian, it's like saying pizza style steak. And it really refers to the sauce. It's made with a red sauce and some Italian spices. And it's a really simple and delicious way to prepare steak. It's something I grew up with. My mom made it all the time. So I'm going to share it with everybody today. Take a look at my ingredients. I got over here, I got a can of crushed tomatoes. I got my extra virgin olive oil, of course, some sugar. For the spices, I got oregano and Italian seasoning, salt and pepper. I got some garlic, 2 large bell peppers, a nice sized yellow onion, a little bit of white wine. And then for the steak, today I'm using, I got some pieces of filet mignon that I had bought some. I normally wouldn't use this cut for this type of dish, but I had bought it at a really cheap price, and it wasn't really the type of quality that I would normally grill medium rare and eat pink inside, so I don't mind cooking it all the way through. But you could use whatever type of steak you want. London broil or any cut really works for this, but usually it's a boneless steak. So first thing I gotta do is get my vegetables ready. For the peppers, I'm just gonna go around the outside and cut off the edges. And then what I'll do is I'm just gonna make thin slices. Okay, peppers look good. I'll just put them right in the bowl. I'm going to cut my onion the same way. I'll just cut the ends off, cut it in half. I'll peel the outer layer. And then I'm just going to cut the same size strips. For my garlic, I just cut the end off, and then I just gave this a smash with my knife, just like that, and took it out of the paper. I got 4 cloves of garlic here. Alright, so my peppers, onions, and garlic is done. It's all in the bowl, and I gotta heat up my pan. I'm using a cast iron pan today. I'm gonna heat this up to medium high, and then while that comes up, I'm gonna just take my steak here, and I'm gonna pat it dry with some paper towels. And you want to get all the excess moisture off of there, and what that does is it'll help you get a better sear on the meat as opposed to steaming it. And then once I get it nice and dry, I'll show you how to season it. Alright, so to season my steak, I'm going to put a good amount of kosher salt, and I'm going to put some fresh pepper. I'm going to do this to both sides. Alright, so this looks good, and don't be afraid to season this aggressively, because that salt and pepper is going to help you form a crust. And then what you do is on the edges here, you just roll them around in the plate. This is why you use a plate, and get that excess seasoning so the whole steak, they all get nicely coated on all sides. Alright, so my pan is nice and hot. You got to watch the smoke here. You don't want your fire alarm to go off, so you try to get some ventilation if you have a fan. I'm going to put some olive oil in the pan, and I'm going to drop it in my steaks. And you can hear the nice sizzle. I'll let these sit here for about 3 minutes, and I'm going to use this splatter screen so I don't get grease all over the kitchen. And then when they're nice and caramelized on one side, we'll turn them over and get seared on both sides. Alright, so this looks pretty good. You can see I got a nice sear on that side. I'm going to flip these over. Alright, so I'm turning these. I want to make sure I get a sear on all sides. You can see this big end here. I'll turn it up like this. I want to get a nice sear on everything. Should take about 10 minutes. These have some nice color. I'm going to transfer them back to my plate. Now I'm going to add my vegetables straight in. That's the garlic, the onions, and the peppers. So after you sear your steaks, if your pan looks a little dry, you see how the oil has evaporated, you just add a touch more olive oil. Make sure you don't burn it. my pan on about medium high, and I really want to get some nice color on these vegetables. I want the garlic to caramelize and the onions and peppers just to start to break down a little bit. But keep an eye on your temperature so that you don't burn it. Alright, so this looks pretty good. I want to get some caramelization on here, but I just really don't want to burn it. And you can see it's going to get some nice color on the garlic and the vegetables. And now I'm going to hit this about half a cup of white wine. Cook the wine until it basically, most of it evaporates, and then just scrape the bottom of the pan. The wine will add flavor and it'll help deglaze the pan as well. Alright, now I'm going to lower the heat a little bit, and the next thing I'm going to add is my tomatoes. So I'll just stir these tomatoes in, and now I'm ready to add my seasoning. Alright, so I lowered my heat to medium-low so this doesn't splatter everywhere. And I'm going to add my seasoning, so kosher salt, fresh cracked black pepper, and if you like it really spicy, you could add some red pepper flakes. I'm going to add a little bit of Italian seasoning. It's about a teaspoon. I'm going to add the same amount of oregano. And then last, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of sugar. Alright, so my seasonings are in. I'm just going to give this a quick stir and just let it simmer for about 5 minutes, and we'll be ready to add back the steak. Alright, so now I'm going to add back my steak. I want to just get some sauce on it. So that's the first one. That's number 2. And you could cut this in smaller pieces if you like. Totally up to you. Okay. So that looks pretty good. And then any juice that's left on the plate, you want to add back into the pan. Alright, so my steak pizzaiola is ready to go. I'm just going to cover this with a light piece of foil. And I'm going to finish cooking this in the oven. I got the oven preheated to 325 degrees. I put the foil on top so that the sauce doesn't splatter all over the inside of the oven. So I'm going to put it in there at 325, and I'm going to bake this for about an hour until the sauce is fully cooked. The peppers and the onions have broken down and are really nice and tender, and allow the sauce to develop its flavor. Alright, so my steak pizzaiola is in the oven, and I remember growing up when my mother made this dish, she always served it with white rice. So I actually got some leftover white rice here. I want to show you a nice way to reheat that, and we'll use it to put our steak on top of. So I got a couple of pats of butter here in the pan. I'm going to turn on this and heat it up, and I'm just going to add a little bit of water, maybe about a tablespoon and a half. And the reason I do that is because this rice, when you have it left over, it tends to dry out. So just that little bit of water will help kind of rehydrate it. Okay, so this looks pretty good. I'm going to add my rice, and I'll just break it up a little bit as I add it in. Right, so now all I got to do is just toss this around until it's nice and hot. And if it looks too dry still, just add a little bit more water. My rice is hot, and now this is just plain white rice. So I just want to add a little bit of seasoning. I'm just going to add a pinch of salt, some pepper, and then I'm going to add some grated cheese. So I'll just mix this together and just transfer it to a serving bowl. Alright, so I just want to cover my rice, keep it warm until the steak pizzaiola is done. And this rice is absolutely delicious with the butter, the salt and pepper, the Parmesan cheese. You could eat this rice just like that with a fried egg on top, and you'd be very, very happy. Alright, so my steak pizzaiola is done. I cooked it just till the peppers were nice and tender. And whenever I put a pan in the oven, cast iron or otherwise, I want to make sure I don't burn my hand. I take an oven mitt, I'll put it on top of the stove just to remind me not to forget, and grab it with my bare hand. And then when I place it, I placed it on my pot holder here, I'll take a towel and just put it on the handle so I don't burn myself. And now I'm ready to plate this up. I'm going to put down some of my rice that I've heated up with the Parmesan cheese right in the middle of my plate here. And then I'll grab some of my steak. This looks great, and it smells really, really fantastic. I'm just going to put this nice piece of steak right in the middle of my rice. And then I'll come back in for some of my sauce with the peppers, the onions, and the garlic. Alright, so I'm just going to finish this with some fresh grated cheese on top. Alright, it's time to give this a try. And my steak is nice and tender. I'm going to grab a little bit of rice. Really, really delicious. If you've never had steak pizzaiola, you definitely need to try it. It's a great way to have steak. Like I said earlier in the video, you could take a tough, cheap cut of meat and cook it for a long period of time. You could cook it for 3 hours until it's really nice and tender. And the combination of the red sauce on top of rice, if you never had that, it's really, really good. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.